Please listen to them this time. The doctor said another pregnancy could take your life. His voice broke somewhere between fear and love. Please. Mary sat on the edge of the narrow hospital bed, palms pressed over the faint swell of her stomach. The fluorescent light painted her face too pale, but her eyes still shone with calm defiance. I can't do that surgery, Tom. Her voice was almost a whisper. They call it routine, but how can I shut the door God opened for us? Children are a blessing, not a mistake. Tom crouched before her chair, gripping her cold hands. Then call me selfish, but I can't risk losing you. You are my whole world. One child is enough. If something happens, if you go. His words drowned in a sob he refused to release. I'd rather never be a father again than bury you. The room filled, with a silence heavier than words. Outside the window, an ambulance siren cried and faded. Mary looked toward the sound the way. Others looked toward prayers they aren't sure will be answered. That night she spoke little. Tom watched her turn her wedding ring again and again on her finger as if twisting courage into place. When she finally fell asleep, he sat awake beside her, staring at the ceiling's yellow light, replaying the doctor's warning in his mind. Every syllable felt like a countdown. A week later, while Mary was at her mother's house, Tom signed a form in a small clinic across town. The nurse explained quietly, "It's reversible in some cases." He just nodded. He didn't want reversibility. He wanted peace of mind. When the procedure ended, he sat in the recovery chair, sweat cooling on his temples. The relief he expected never came. He had chosen love over legacy, but it felt like grief. That evening he brought Mary flowers, her favorite lily, even though it wasn't Sunday and not their anniversary. She smiled at him the way she always did when she sensed guilt hiding behind his affection. "Tom," she teased gently, "what mischief are you apologizing for tonight?" He forced a laugh and kissed her forehead. "For loving you more than I should." They both pretended that answer was enough. Weeks slipped by quietly. There were dinners with small laughter, long walks, simple routines of ordinary happiness. Tom would lie awake some nights, hand resting on the small of her back, whispering silent thanks that she was safe. He believed the danger had passed. He had protected her. Until the morning she burst into the kitchen, eyes wide, voice trembling not with fear, but a stunned joy that froze him in place. "Tom," she breathed, "I went to the clinic. We're having another baby." The coffee cup slid from his hand and shattered across the tiles. For a heartbeat there was only the sound of porcelain breaking, then nothing. He stared at her, at that impossible smile, at the life he had thought he'd prevented, and a chill climbed the back of his neck. His secret act of love had turned into an irony too cruel for words. He swallowed hard, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "That's wonderful," he managed, but inside, panic roared. He kissed her cheek, held her close, and whispered only, "I'll take care of you, no matter what." That night he sat alone on the porch, the scent of lily fading beside him. The stars above were cold and brilliant, and for the first time, he wished he could trade every one of them for a single promise of safety. He didn't know that the act meant to save her was the very choice about to break both their hearts. He sat outside the small house long after Mary had gone to bed, the porch light flickering on his face. He could still hear her laugh from inside, soft as wind through curtains. For a moment he almost believed that choosing the surgery had made everything safe, that life would simply roll forward in quiet contentment. But fate has a cruel way of reminding hearts that peace never lasts. 2 months later, the scent of coffee filled the kitchen when she said it, the words that sliced through his chest like glass. "Tom, we're going to have another baby." He looked up from the paper, frozen. The headline swam before his eyes. Have a… what? She smiled innocently, the most beautiful sight and the most terrifying thing he had ever seen. A baby, Tom. Isn't it wonderful? The test came back positive this morning. He tried to breathe. Are you sure? She nodded. The doctor said everything looks normal. In that moment he felt the walls close in, the air thin. He forced a smile, kissed her forehead and whispered, "That's good news." But as soon as she turned away, he gripped the edge of the counter, knuckles white. His secret would kill him if it ever came out. He had done everything to save her, and now the same fate he feared was walking toward them again. By evening he had convinced himself there might be a mistake, some miracle explanation that would keep them safe. When Mary fell asleep, he sat by her side, tracing the curve of her hand in the dim light. She slept with a small smile, one palm protectively over her stomach. Under his breath he murmured, "Please let her live. Take anything from me, but let her live." The following months were a blur of care and quiet terror. He never left her alone, called the doctor for every small pain, and built a cradle in the spare room, though his heart bled with every nail he hammered. At night he walked the hallway, listening to her breathing, half in prayer, half in panic. By the 6th month, even the doctor's smile had turned thin. Complications appeared, subtle but growing. "We'll monitor closely," the doctor said, but Tom could read what hid behind professional calm. One night Mary noticed him watching her too intently. "Tom, you're scaring me," she whispered. "I just don't want anything to happen," he said. She took his hand, guiding it to her belly, where the faint movement fluttered like the beating of wings. "Nothing ever happens without reason," she said gently. "Maybe this child is reason enough." Weeks later, the world fell silent. The cradles remained unfinished, and the lily he once brought turned brown in their vase. The sterile white of the hospital walls blurred before his wet eyes as voices murmured around him, words without meaning. Only one sentence reached his heart, delivered with mechanical sympathy. "I'm sorry. We couldn't save either." Tom sat motionless, her wedding ring still pressed between his fingers. The choice he made to keep her safe had delivered him to this emptiness. There was no sound left in his world, just the echo of a promise and the faint hum of lights above a hospital bed that no longer held the woman he loved. He walked home before dawn. The city was still asleep, ignorant of the life ripped quietly from it. In the kitchen, the morning paper still lay unfolded on the table where she had once smiled. Beside it, the half-finished cradle waited in silence, and in the faint light, his shadow fell across it. One man, one mistake, and a love that even sacrifice couldn't save. Spring returned without color. Tom still lived in the same house, white curtains, empty cradle, and the ghost of Mary's laughter settled into every corner. Months became years. Grief had no calendar. It only changed shape. People told him to remarry, to find companionship, but the idea felt like betrayal until the loneliness began to scrape the walls of his sanity. He met Evelyn Clark by chance at the small bookstore downtown. She was younger, not by decades but by disposition, her eyes alive with kindness, yet tempered by something deeper, a woman who had known her share of silence. She spoke softly and listened more, asking once, "Does the world ever stop reminding you of what you lost?" Tom looked at her over the coffee counter. "No, it just teaches you how to live inside the reminder." Evelyn smiled in that patient, understanding way he hadn't seen in years, and for the first time since Mary's death, the air around him didn't feel suffocating. Friendship followed quietly, a conversation here, a shared book there. Within a year they married, not from passion, but from two broken halves trying to make peace. Evelyn never demanded more than he could give. She turned his cold house warm again, humming while watering plants, leaving little notes on his desk that said things like, "Today is still a gift." Yet every night, when she caught him gazing toward the unfinished cradle, she knew another woman still lived between them. They tried for a child, gently at first, then with growing desperation. Months slipped into dread. Tom avoided the truth, silencing her hope with old excuses. Maybe time will fix everything. That time had already sealed the choice he made years ago. The vasectomy that had saved a life now chained another. Evelyn visited Dr. Reed quietly, alone. When she returned that night, her eyes were swollen from contained tears. "Tom," she said softly, "why didn't you tell me?" He froze. "Tell you what?" "That you can't have children." Her voice didn't carry anger, only hurt disbelief. "You let me pray for something you already knew was impossible." Tom rubbed his face, shame burning through him. "I wanted to protect you from disappointment. What you protected me from," she said, voice cracking, "was the truth." For days they hardly spoke. Then Evelyn did what faith taught her best. She fought sorrow with prayer. Every dawn she whispered her wish into light. Every night she folded hope inside tears. 4.5 years passed. Medical treatments ended. Faith did not. And then, one evening, when Tom returned from the mill, she met him at the door, trembling. "Tom, I'm late," she said. Laughter and fear tangled in her throat. The doctor confirmed it. "I'm pregnant." The world tilted. The impossible word echoed between them like thunder. "That can't be," he whispered. "It is." "I don't know how, but it is." Silence stretched, then shuddered into fury. He backed away, disbelief twisting into something darker. "Whose child is it, Evelyn?" Her face drained. "Yours. There's no one else." But logic crushed faith. In his mind, miracles did not exist anymore. "Don't lie to me." His voice tore through the room. "I gave up fatherhood for love. Once I won't be made a fool again." Evelyn's tears dried mid-air. She whispered, "One day, you'll understand that faith can do what medicine cannot." Then she turned away, leaving him to the echo of breaking glass and the echo within his chest. He never followed her that night. Pride louder than sorrow, disbelief stronger than devotion. And in the cold shadow of that moment, history prepared itself to wound him again. Winter crept gently across Willow Creek. Tom had been living alone since the night Evelyn left. The house echoed with ghosts, yet one presence never left: the small photograph of Emma, his daughter with Mary, now a young woman studying in Boston. He wrote to her often, though most letters remained unsent. He had promised her mother he'd protect their child, but all he'd protected was his guilt. 3 months after Evelyn's departure, a white envelope arrived bearing no return address. Inside was a hospital, stamped from another city, and a line, written in Evelyn's careful script: "The baby is due in spring." Tom stared at the words until they blurred. He wanted to believe, yet his heart refused. Anger still ruled where love once lived. "Maybe I've been punished enough," he muttered to his mother. Margaret, that evening, the old woman sat knitting near the fire, eyes sharp despite age. "You punish yourself more than God ever could," she said. "You doubt because doubt is easier than faith." When spring came, so did another letter. No sender once again, only a photograph. A newborn swaddled in white sheets, eyes closed, mouth curved in a faint smile. On the back, one word: Noah. Margaret touched the picture with trembling fingers. "He's beautiful," she whispered. Tom's throat tightened. He felt something break inside him, something heavy and cold that he'd carried for too long. Weeks passed before he gathered the courage to drive to the city hospital. In the ward registry, he found her name Evelyn Clark Harris and a note, discharged 2 weeks ago. He searched rental addresses, church records, anything that could point him toward her. Nothing. 2 years slipped by. He aged faster than time, working at the mill by day and writing unsent apologies by night. Then, one grey morning, Margaret handed him a small, wrinkled envelope. A neighbour had delivered it, she said. Inside was a birthday card drawn in childish crayon. A sun, a stick-figure man, and under it the words, "For Papa," from Noah. Tom's hands shook. How? How could he know me? Margaret smiled softly. Faith travels faster than mail, son. That evening he packed his modest suitcase and drove once more toward the address written on the back of the drawing. Across an old bridge on the city's edge stood a small blue house. Through the window he saw Evelyn sitting near a crib, reading softly to a little boy whose hair gleamed the same chestnut brown as his own. He knocked, unsure if she'd open the door or close it forever. When she looked up and met his eyes, time unwrapped itself. No explanations, no excuses, just the raw truth of recognition. "Is that our son?" he asked, voice breaking. Evelyn nodded. "Noah," she called gently. "This is your father." The boy ran forward without hesitation. Tom dropped to his knees, arms trembling as he lifted his child for the first time. Tears and laughter collided in one soundless prayer. Behind them, Margaret's words echoed from memory. "You doubt because it's easier than faith." For the first time in years, Tom believed again. He didn't know if forgiveness could change the past, but in that small blue house, between the heartbeat of a mother and the laughter of a child, the future felt possible again. Autumn came softly again, shedding gold across Willow Creek. The wind carried the scent of baked earth and wood smoke, the kind Mary once loved, and Tom breathed it without pain for the first time in years. Time had dulled nothing, only transformed it. He still lived near the river but visited the small blue house almost every day. Noah was 4 now, full of questions and laughter that filled every hollow inside him. Evelyn had learned to smile without hesitation, and sometimes he caught her, watching him the way she used to before the storm between them. One Sunday morning she said quietly, "You don't owe me apologies anymore, Tom." He looked at her across the porch, sunlight in her hair. "Maybe, but I owe you gratitude." In the years that followed, the Harris house became a meeting place for weekends and birthdays. Emma returned from Boston each summer, her gentle manner blending easily with Evelyn's warmth. Margaret, older now, slower but still sharp, would sit near the fireplace, little Noah climbing around her knees while she told him stories about a grandmother he'd never known. "Your Grandma Mary was the bravest woman I ever met," she'd say, threading a hand through his hair. "She taught your father what love costs and what it gives back." Noah, wide-eyed, would whisper, "Did she really know me before I was born?" Margaret smiled. "Maybe somewhere in heaven she did." On the night of Emma's graduation celebration, Tom stood alone on the porch again, watching Evelyn inside, dancing with Noah beneath soft light. Laughter trembled through the glass, the kind he'd feared he'd never hear again. Evelyn stepped out to join him, handing him a cup of coffee. "She'd be proud of you, you know," she said. He shook his head gently. "I'm proud of them. Emma, Noah, and you. You held the pieces together when I was too tired to try." Evelyn placed a hand over his. "Then stop carrying yesterday," she whispered. "Tomorrow's been waiting for you a long time." He smiled, a small tear carrying the weight of every promise he had broken and every one he had kept. Inside, Emma was playing the old piano, And Noah's laughter rose like a chorus over the music. Evelyn leaned into him, and together they watched their little universe spin in warm light. Later that night, alone in his room, he took Mary's photograph from the drawer, slid it into a family frame beside Evelyn and the children. No separation, no labels, just a circle of love that had survived its own fires. Outside, wind stirred through the trees, carrying the distant sound of rain across the fields. He whispered, "Thank you, Mary, for teaching me what forever means." Evelyn answered from the doorway without asking why he spoke to the wind. She heard you, and for once, Tom believed it. The rain kept falling, gentle and promising, like the world had forgiven him at last.